All right, so it's no secret that Utah is one of the fastest growing states in the country. In fact, since 2010, Utah is the #1 fastest growing state in the entire country. But why is it so popular? We talk about this stuff all the time right here on the channel, and I'd love to share all things Utah, including helping people discover the beauty and the lifestyle that Utah provides. It is the outdoors. It is the beautiful scenery. It's the landscape. It's the opportunities. It's the economic. It's the jobs. It's the job market. It's so many more things beyond just those things, but at the same time, there are also negatives. There are cons as well. And there are so many things that you'll truly only understand once you've actually made the move here and you already live here. And through my perspective, with the experience that I have in helping people make that move to Utah each and every day, I have really great insight that I can share with you if indeed you're considering making the move to Utah as well, or perhaps you've already moved here and you've just landed in the wrong spot and you're looking for a new home. So in this video, I want to take a really balanced approach to sharing both the pros as well as the cons about living in Utah. So for every pro that I talk about, I'll give something that's the opposite, the flip side of that. What is the negative that you really need to factor in when you're making that move yourself? And my hope is that this balanced approach really gives you great insight and helps serve you to make sure that you're making the best, most informed decision possible. Enough said, let's get started. All right, number one, the first pro that I want to talk about is the stunning landscape that Utah provides, the natural beauty and the scenery that we get to appreciate each and every day. Whether you live in the bigger cities or outside of those cities in the Wasatch Back or anywhere else in the state of Utah, you are blessed to be able to wake up each and every morning and see the beautiful scenery that Utah provides. And this extends far beyond just the opportunities that we have with our 5 national parks or the 40+ state parks, as well as all of the national recreational areas and all of the things in between. There's so much diversity in Utah's beauty, and it extends far beyond just those places. And from my perspective, and in my opinion, when I sit here in my office and I film these videos, I get to look out of my window right here and see those beautiful Wasatch Mountains. And for me, the quality of life that those mountains provide is something that just simply can't be taken for granted. I have so many clients that have made the move here that continue to react to the beautiful surroundings that we get to enjoy each and every day. And hopefully, if you live here or you're just visiting, if you ever need a little boost in terms of mental health, I think all you have to do is look to those mountains, get outside, go experience a hike, go on a mountain bike ride, go experience something in those beautiful mountains, because it really will truly impact your quality of life. And the opportunities for outdoors are year round. It's not just in the winter when we have the greatest snow on earth and you want to go skiing or snowboarding or snowmobiling. It's the summer months, and it's the mountain biking, it's the hiking, it's everything in between. It's the lakes and reservoirs that we have here. And right now, being the very end of September, we are right now in the prime of fall foliage. So if you want to get out into the mountains and see some of the most beautiful scenery, this week and next are probably some of the best weeks of the entire year to check those places out. And one thing that I've noticed is most people don't fully understand how integral the outdoors are to their everyday lives here. And I truly believe that it's that balance between the outdoors and the urban lifestyle that Salt Lake City and other cities provide that give Utah a unique balance between these two things and provide a quality of life that's unmatched anywhere in the country. So that's the pro. What's the exact opposite of the pro in terms of the outdoors and those beautiful mountains that I just spoke about? Well, it's the air quality and the inversions, specifically in the wintertime. Those mountains, despite how absolutely beautiful they are, they act as a barrier for the atmosphere as it moves across from the west over to the east. And we, as we sit here on the Wasatch Front, on the west side of those mountains, we get a lot of that pollution trapped right here in these valleys where we live. And so typically each and every winter, we have about 2 to 2.5 weeks worth of air where it's inverted. In other words, the cold air gets trapped below the warm air and those pollutants get trapped down in the valley. And that can get really kind of nasty. And it's those 2.5 weeks every single year that is probably my least favorite part about living in Utah in general. But the air quality can also be affected throughout the summer months. In fact, this past summer, we had a lot of wildfires happening in Idaho, in California, and up in the Northwest. And those wildfires actually impact our air quality here as that smoke moves from west to east and gets trapped right here in our valleys because we have this massive, beautiful wall of mountains that keeps everything trapped. And so despite the beauty that the Wasatch Mountains provide and the accessibility to those beautiful outdoors, it does have a negative side effect and an unintended consequence just because of the topography of the land, and we can't really work around that. All we can do is to try to improve the air quality over time. And shockingly enough, the air quality along the Wasatch Front has drastically improved since the 1990s. Some people believe that it's getting a lot worse, but in fact, it's gotten a lot better. And this is happening for a couple of good reasons. Number one, we have far better technology with cleaner automobiles today than we did in the 80s and 90s. We also notice that there are much higher standards in terms of what the EPA regulates in terms of building emissions and other emissions that really affect the atmosphere. And back then we had Geneva Steele down in Utah County that was still operable, as well as a coal power plant just west of downtown Salt Lake City. So with those two things no longer in play, as well as cleaner automobiles, we see much cleaner air today than we did just a few decades ago. And although we still need room for improvement, the massive influx of people that are moving here are not causing the bulk of the damage. And so while we can't solve the problem of those beautiful mountains blocking things into the valley, what we can do is focus on cleaner emissions and more efficiency in terms of how we pollute the air so that we can manage it better. All right, now I want to move on to pro and con number 2. And first, on the positive side, why are people loving moving to and living in Utah? It's that strong job market. It's the economy that Utah provides. It's the opportunities that come with one of the best run states in the entire country in terms of its economy. It's a massive draw for not only people that are making the move here, but businesses as well as startups. And Utah's economic growth is not happening just from one industry or one sector. It's actually spread over a very diverse number of industries, which is really helping grow the economy here in Utah. So despite what some people might think, it's not just the tech scene that's really impacting our economy. It's aerospace defense, it's healthcare, it's financial services, it's advanced manufacturing. It's so many things beyond just the tech industry. And that is precisely why Utah is so well positioned for companies to make the move here and bring their companies here, because not only do we have a highly educated workforce, we also have a very bilingual community here. We have a lot of advantages in terms of workers that companies look at and go, wow, this is a really good place to set up shop because we have all the talent that we need right here in Utah. And in addition to a strong job market, we have incredibly low unemployment. This has always historically been the case here in Utah, and it continues to be the case as other states suffer more than Utah. Utah always sits well below the national average. And another thing I want to talk about is some people don't realize how competitive some of these job markets can be. Depending on your particular field, you might find that it's not the best job market for that particular field right now, especially with where the economy is sitting right now currently. But over time, those industries continue to thrive and continue to bounce back and continue to outperform the national averages. And another side benefit is Utah has a really strong focus on being a family-friendly environment. And I think it really does help the work-life balance factor as well. It is socially accepted here to make sure that you make your family a priority. And I love that about Utah. It's not the case everywhere you go around the country, but here in Utah, it is. So what's the downside of all of this economic growth? Honestly, it's cost of housing. Housing has increased dramatically and has become a crisis here in Utah in terms of housing affordability. For people that have grown up here their entire lives, to see that the median priced home is now over $500,000 can be daunting, but depending on where you're moving from, it might be a bargain. If you're coming from certain states like New Jersey or California or New York, you might notice that the prices here are far lower than what you've experienced elsewhere. But overall, we do have a housing affordability crisis. We've got to find a way to build more homes and to help that supply-demand equation get a little more balanced, because for the longest time, we've been simply out of balance in terms of how many homes and units we have for sale or for rent versus how many are in demand. And fun fact, since 2008, after the financial crash, we've only had 1 year in the state of Utah where we've actually built enough homes to meet the current demand for that year. And that was just a couple of years ago in 2022. Every single year otherwise, we've underbuilt. So we sit in a shortage of 40,000+ homes based on our current demand. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring more demand into the market looking for more homes. Therefore, it will continue to raise prices. So without more inventory, when that demand comes up, the prices will go up with it. So hopefully as a state, we can really help solve this problem so that housing doesn't continue to rise as we've seen it rise thus far. All right, moving on. Number 3, the number 3 pro and con that I want to talk about is one of the things that people really comment about why they make the move to Utah to begin with. Oftentimes people come for a job. Oftentimes they come because they want to experience the outdoors and a different lifestyle. But one of the other factors as to why people are making the move here is they want a family-friendly community. And it's that family-friendly culture that's baked into the culture here in Utah that really is attractive to so many people because they haven't had that where they're coming from. And overall, Utah is known for being one of the absolute most family-friendly states in the entire country. It extends well beyond tight-knit communities. It goes into the school system. We spend more money as a percentage of the budget here in Utah on education than any other state in the country as well. But it extends beyond that as well. It's family-friendly activities and so many things that are happening that don't just include the outdoors. If you have a family and you're looking to relocate to Utah, Utah could be an excellent fit for you. And so if you don't have children and if you don't have a family, you're going to want to find certain neighborhoods and certain areas where you can truly fit in because honestly, I believe there's something here for everybody and there's certainly places where you can find a great place to fit in there as well. And just to be transparent, it's this family-friendly environment that's really baked into the culture here as well as the religious background of who settled Utah. It really does bleed over into our way of life in all areas of our lives here in Utah. But there are cons to that as well. And the feedback that I continue to get is that we have limited cultural diversity. And yes, we know that Utah has less racial diversity than most states around the country. We understand that it also has less religious diversity and other beliefs. And so if that's something that's important to you, you might want to just get a little more information and make sure that this is the place for you before you actually come. And so because we have a predominant race as well as a religion here, it can sometimes cause some concern for some people if they're looking for that. But honestly, just like I said before, if you live closer to the city, you're going to have more diversity. If you live a little further away from the city, you'll have less. And that's just pretty much the rule of thumb. Anywhere you live in Utah, I think it's probably the case in most states around the country as well, with some exceptions. And one thing I do like to talk to people about is how many people feel like they have to adapt based on our state having a predominant or a majority religion that absolutely does influence lifestyle as well as public policy and alcohol laws and so many more things. So we can have that conversation separately, but it's something worth noting and making sure that you're familiar with if you indeed need to know those things prior to making the move. All right, pro number 4, and that is access to quality education and safe neighborhoods. And of course, we have schools that aren't rated so well, but we do have overall great schools here in Utah, not only pre-K through 12, but also secondary education. We have some top tier universities here in the University of Utah, Brigham Young University, Utah State, Weber State, Utah Valley. There are so many great opportunities if education is important to you. And in addition to education, our neighborhoods in Utah are rated as some of the safest in the country. And the one thing that some people don't realize in terms of safety, like if you're coming from a state where you don't feel safe, you're probably not going to find that here in Utah. It doesn't mean that we don't have some crime. Of course we do. Every place does, especially when you add more people, because as the saying goes, more people, more problems, right? So we know that there's going to be some crime no matter where you go, but overall, we're incredibly safe here. But one thing that people don't realize, going back to the education component of this, is that we oftentimes have some of the largest class sizes. So although we spend more money here as a percentage of our overall budget here in Utah, we do have some larger class sizes because in Utah, we make more babies, we have more children. So that's just a normal thing here. Hopefully, we continue to make education a priority as well as keeping our neighborhoods safe. And this is something we take incredibly seriously here in the state of Utah. Okay, so what could possibly be on the flip side of this pro? What could be the con about having quality schools and safe neighborhoods? Well, the only thing I could come up with is traffic is getting worse and public transportation is not quite what some people would like to see it at. So here in Salt Lake County, we have phenomenal public transportation in a light rail system called Trax, as well as a train called Front Runner and a really expansive busing system. But if you step outside of Salt Lake County in the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, your options diminish greatly. So traffic is increasing because we have so many more people moving here. And although that is the case, we still have far better commute times on average than almost every other city that you compare Salt Lake City to, especially in the Western United States. So with an average commute time of 22 minutes, I think we're still sitting in a very good spot. And so even though you see some locals really complaining about how terrible traffic has gotten, if they just went and visited other cities and compared, they'd be shocked at how much worse it is in pretty much every other city. And overall, as somebody who drives 30 to 35,000 miles per year as a real estate professional, I'm on the roads a lot. And honestly, I think the traffic's just fine here. There are, of course, certain times of the day and certain regions, certain areas that really do bottleneck. But overall, our traffic's not that bad. And going back to the public transportation topic, based on our recent announcement that we've received the bid for for the 2034 Olympic Games. I believe that the public transportation system here in Utah will be expanding because of that announcement in preparation to those winter games coming. Pro number 5 is that we have a very strong sense of community and local support. And so what does that mean? Well, if you're on the business side, if you're self-employed or you're starting a business, people in Utah really love to support local businesses. Utah is driven by small business, and it's because we choose to do business with other small businesses in the state of Utah, it really helps those businesses thrive here. So that's what I mean by local support. Buying local is a massive thing here in Utah. I don't know if it's like that in other states, but here in Utah, it absolutely is. So if you happen to start a business here in Utah, you hopefully find some good success in terms of making sure that you're connecting with people that value the sense of local support. But on the personal side, I've also noticed that people genuinely care about the other people in their community. And yes, there are cliques. There are certain groups that certainly hang out with their own people, and that's pretty much the case anywhere you go, of course. But overall, people genuinely care more about their neighbor here, in my opinion, than most other places. And all of these things combined really impact how amazing this place is in terms of a place to live and do business in. And one thing that people may not realize is sometimes if you're an outsider and you're coming into the state and you move into a neighborhood that's really of one certain type of group of people, you might find like you're a little bit of an outsider a little longer than you'd like, and you might have to do some things to really embed yourself into the community. And that takes a little proactiveness. That takes a little bit of coming out of your shell. And for many people that are more introverted, that's really difficult. And so introverted people sometimes can move into our communities and feel like an outsider. But I promise you, if you step outside of your comfort zone just a little bit, I guarantee you there are people around you that care and want to be friends and want to make sure that they support you. And on the flip side, yes, we have amazing communities, strong sense of community, local support. What's the downside of this, right? Well, the thing that Utah has been known for so long is very limited nightlife as well as entertainment options. And of course, nobody in their right mind would ever move to Utah because of our nightlife here. We don't have nightlife compared to pretty much any other city. So if that's important to you, maybe Vegas or Los Angeles or New York might be a better spot, or honestly, pretty much every other city. But the entertainment options here are abound. We have a booming sports scene here with the Utah Jazz and now an NHL hockey team, as well as a professional soccer team and really awesome college athletics as well, with really close, tight-knit rivalries between the local schools because we're so close to one another. And that makes the sporting environment here really cool. And the icing on the cake with all of this is the 2034 Winter Olympics that'll be coming here again, which I'm pretty excited about. But beyond sports, what other entertainment options are there? There's a lot of options. We have really cool concert venues. We have cool festivals, art exhibits, museums. We have so many cool things that you can experience and find things to do here in the state of Utah. So I think that entertainment factor that was lacking in the past is really starting to change and is going to continue to change as this state evolves over time. And no longer do people have to feel like they're going to the same place over and over and over again to seek out entertainment options, because there are so many more options today than there were just a handful of years ago. And I want to emphasize that every single state, no matter where you live, has pros and cons. And it's my goal to make sure that I'm being transparent here and talking about both sides of the coin, because it's where those two sides of the coin come together where you can actually make decisions and get the truth. And I would encourage, if you are even considering making the move to Utah yourself, I would strongly encourage making a visit. Come out, reach out to us. We will create an itinerary for you that is customized to what you're looking to accomplish to make sure that you can make the best use of your time while you're here. But I would really strongly encourage that before you pull the trigger and make the decision to move here. If you haven't experienced Utah, then you're truly missing out. And I would strongly suggest planning that trip to make sure that you can discover what Utah truly has to offer. And so, whether you've already made the move to Utah and you're already settling in, or perhaps you're making the move here, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. Please reach out to us. You can find our contact information in the description below. And if this is the kind of content that really helps you, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button as well, because it helps me get in front of more people just like you that are making that move, and stay in touch just to make sure that I can serve anyone that's making the move here to Utah. And if you want to learn more about life in Utah, check out this playlist next. And until next video, thanks.